Welcome in everyone to Let's Talk Utes. Today we are reacting to the Utah versus Baylor game. So let's jump right into it.
So obviously a Utah win here is 2013. It was a little bit uglier than we originally thought. Baylor in the first half played an excellent game, and Utah in the second half played an excellent game. For me, it was a game with two halves, and it kind of it'll show out as we more kind of talk about this game. But it was pretty ugly on it for Utah fan base side.
Yeah, before we start going into the stats, I just want to say to the Baylor fans and the Baylor team, you guys suck. Your team is horrible. You lost to our third and fourth stringers. We played a QB4 for 90% of the game and still won. Honestly, both teams healthy, this is non-competitive. We would win by 40 plus, and that's the absolute truth. If this is really the second or third most talented team in the Big 12, you guys better get used to Utah winning because we're going to be winning 4 or 5 conference championships.
While I don't necessarily agree with all of that, I think Baylor was a lot better than I thought today. After their performance against Texas State, just getting blown off the ball, both lines of scrimmage. I think it's clear that they were kind of looking ahead to this game, and they kind of got caught unaware, I think.
I mean, spending all that time, months studying Utah, taking a loss to Texas State just to prepare for Utah, all of that to still lose. Embarrassingly, also. Seriously, 13 points, and one of those field goals actually missed. So 10 points.
I think in the first half, they played really well. I think that their defense was really solid. Their offense was sustaining drives. I was impressed with Baylor in the first half. The second half was more of what I expected.
Agreed.
Utah controlling the game. Utah outscoring them 17-3. Utah kind of dominating both lines of scrimmage and coming back. So I like Ethan said, it was a tale of two halves, I thought.
Well, as you see, Utah, they actually won the yardage battle today. 147 yards, I believe, give or take a few, came in the fourth quarter when Nate Johnson was running the offense.
Yeah.
So it really was, if Bryson Barnes came in the fourth quarter, not Nate Johnson, this game is completely different. Nate Johnson saved the game. He created so much more a dynamic offensive scheme. He was able to throw the ball, which we haven't seen him give the opportunity yet, which is really nice to see him run the offense. He was able to really create a dynamic rushing attack with Jalen Glover and Jaquindon Jackson that created a wide open field for him to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, something that sticks out to me in the stats is definitely the rushing yards, 224. It didn't feel like Utah rushed for that much, but towards the end of the game, they really, really got the running game going. And yeah, they kind of leaned on Baylor and kind of used, their superior conditioning to really tire them out and get the run game going.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, it looked like Baylor was the team struggling with the heat more. There was a noticeable difference whenever that Baylor defense didn't have a rest. Yeah. There was a notable difference. It seemed like they were getting worn down.
Utah in the first half was the one that the defense was on the field for quite a bit, and you could tell.
Yeah.
They were getting gassed. They were taking bad angles. They were a little slow to the ball. And in the second half, that flipped, where Baylor's defense was the one that was constantly on the field. And I think you saw that in how Utah kind of wore them down and then broke through towards the end to kind of put the game away.
I mean, and we got to bring it up. This game's officiating was atrocious on both sides of the ball. I think Baylor has an argument to talk about why it was all about Baylor. Baylor's getting screwed over. But Utah has plenty of arguments. Miss fumble, some really, really soft holding penalties. At least 2 of those were complete bullcrap from Mukafisi.
Yeah.
It was an interesting game, man.
Yeah, I think if you're a Baylor fan listening to this, you'll say, no way, Baylor was screwed. If you're a Utah fan listening, you'll say, no way, Utah was screwed. Yeah. And so I think that's just the mark of bad officials, where neither team is really happy with how the game was officiated.
I don't think Baylor fans should be complaining. They got bailed out a lot of times. I mean, that last, what people thought was a PI, it's clearly not a PI. He never grabs onto his jersey. He never holds his arms down. He makes a play on the ball. He doesn't push him out of the way even. He makes a complete play on the ball. Like, that is not a PI, and the ref was right there and could have called it and knew it was not.
I mean, Robinson threw up a jump ball. Like, what are you expecting?
Exactly.
It's a jump ball.
It's like
They're
you can't touch the receiver. You can't jump for the ball.
No, it's like he's going to make a play.
What do you want him
to
do? Do you want him to
catch
back off of the receiver and let him catch it?
I'm sorry, Baylor. You're not Ohio State. You're not getting that call.
Yeah. And then just as well, Utah had a lot of really soft holding penalties at critical moments as well. It almost messed up that last drive after the Cole Bishop interception coming in to score that touchdown. A holding penalty moved them back to begin, nearly out of field goal range, which was really important in that specific moment. So Utah definitely, in my opinion, and in the opinion of rational fans, got the worst whistle this game by far. And then, I mean, that's not even talking about the missed fumble that got overturned.
Ridiculous.
I mean, how many steps do you need to take? Like, do you need to get 10 yards before you're considered a
when
runner?
you're turning,
What in the world?
When you're turning up to make a play and you fumble the ball, there's no way in hell there was evidence that was needed to be overturned.
Like,
that was a fumble.
You need to break 3 tackles, hurdle a player, and have a 40-yard carry before you're considered a runner. Like, that was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. That was 100% a missed blown call. Utah definitely should have fumbled.
I mean,
out.
and then the very worst refereeing call at all, the one that actually cost points, was the field goal. A missed field goal was called as a make for Baylor.
That was pretty terrible.
That is the worst it gets. If that had been properly assessed, it doesn't even matter if there's a PI at the end of the game, which there wasn't. But even if there was, Utah still is up 10 at that point.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what we did in our preview and go over where we got it right, where we got it wrong, and what we're thinking now. So this is what we did in our preview. We thought Utah had a pretty significant advantage at most position
as
groups.
you can see.
The talent is just a little different at Utah. They just have a little bit more than Baylor does. So let's talk about it. QB, did we get it right? For me, honestly, I think this is a push because every QB played like dog shit in this game.
Yeah.
None of them
Other
were
than
good.
Nate Johnson.
Other than Nate Johnson. But yeah.
But he played so little snaps. It's
so
really
little.
hard. 90% of the game was Bryson Barnes.
I don't know. I mean, Nate Johnson led 2 TD drives in a game where
It's
points
true.
were at a premium.
It's true.
How I look at it is, yeah, Bryson sucked really bad. He almost sold the game. Sawyer Robertson did sell the game with that last interception.
Couple of interceptions.
He
yeah.
did lose the game. There's a big difference between being bad enough you almost lose the game and actually losing the game. You need to take that into account and then think about Nate Johnson's massively positive performance with 2 touchdown drives in crunch time to win this game. So for me, I like the Utah pick. I'm not saying Sawyer Robertson was a terrible back, and I'm definitely not saying Bryson Barnes was good. I'm just saying that Sawyer Robertson is almost directly responsible for that last pick and then easy touchdown.
I think you can see the talent with Sawyer Robertson.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got a good build. He navigates the pocket really well, I thought.
does.
He didn't take a sack
Excellent.
today. He had good pocket awareness, but the accuracy just is not there yet. He missed a few receivers that were open by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
He threw a couple of interceptions that were really just boneheaded mistakes.
He should have thrown them away.
Yeah, should have
Nearly
thrown it
3
away or
interceptions
taken
as
a
well.
sack.
There was
Yeah.
one that was dropped. I mean, it was a hard interception, but I mean, the DB had hands on it.
Yeah, and so he did have a couple flashes here and there, but he was just really inaccurate and really raw.
Yes.
And so as a Baylor fan, it's kind of a mixed bag. You know, if you're a Baylor fan, Sawyer Robinson had a couple flashes that show you, oh, maybe this guy's potential, but he also had a couple things that make you kind of nervous as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think for the 3 quarterbacks that played this game, Bryson Barnes was
The
by
worst.
far the
By
worst.
far
in
the
my
worst.
eyes.
No one's arguing that.
And then Nate Johnson was by far the best.
Yeah,
And
I
so
agree.
I give it to Utah just because they have the best quarterback, but it really a push is probably the correct
Because no one
analysis.
played well.
Yes.
Really. Yeah. The total aggregate was no quarterback.
pretty bad
Yeah, it was a
product.
pretty bad product. Okay, running back. Yeah, I think we were right about this. Clearly into Utah. Even banged up, they just had more production than Baylor did. If we were going just by the second quarter, this would be Baylor by a landslide.
Yeah.
But if we are going the game as an aggregate, Jaquinton Jackson was the best running back.
Yeah.
Jalen Glover had good moments. Baylor did have a couple good performances from their
Yeah,
running back, but
they did,
overall can't match up.
Unfortunately, they did learn that the game is 4 quarters.
Yeah.
And so they really tapered off towards the end, and Jaquindon really started coming out. And Utah's best back as well was injured with Mekhi Bernard.
Yeah.
So I think Utah would have run for north of 250 yards if Mekhi Bernard was in, but they still ran for a very respectable
I think they would have run
220,
for north of 250 even if Nate Johnson just plays most of the game. They probably would have run for
I mean,
north
I agree
of
with you.
300.
I'll be honest, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I really do.
I do think Dominic Richardson for
He was good.
Baylor needs a little shout out here. I mean, 16 carries, 79 yards.
He was good.
Oklahoma
Really
State
solid
transfer.
play.
He was solid back for sure.
So I think if they can kind of build around him, kind of give him the ball when especially in a situation when Sawyer Robertson is your quarterback.
Yeah.
They kind of went away from that when Utah was putting more pressure on him and on the quarterback. So I do think Utah gets it, but Richardson did have a really good game.
Yeah, pass catchers, I don't think either group of pass catchers really had a good game, simply because the quarterbacks were so bad and they couldn't just get the ball to their receivers. I do like a few of the plays that Baylor's receivers made. I thought they went up for jump balls. I thought that they made kind of a few lackluster passes from Sawyer Robinson work out with really, really elite catches.
That catch, I think his name's Jackson, number 11 for Baylor, double coverage, goes up and gets it. That was the catch of the game.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, and then there was also the catch on the sideline that Baylor
Yes.
had that was really good. That was really great catch.
Yeah.
So for me, I lean slightly to Baylor pass catchers because I just think they made some plays on some balls that maybe wouldn't have normally been caught. Whereas Utah, I think they just caught what was normal and missed what was bad throws.
Yeah.
I agree, but I would say that Utah had a lot more timely performance by pass catchers. When we absolutely needed to score, they had 10 yards of space for Nate Johnson those last 2 drives.
Yeah.
Baylor's pass catches, what did they really amount to? Really nothing, honestly. They didn't actually end up mattering in the scope of the game.
Yep.
So I would say, for me, I'd call it a push just because neither played that well. It's not like either group really dominated the other. Both had their own set of struggles, and a lot of it came from the quarterback not getting them the ball.
I think this is kind of like the start of the tale of two halves.
Yeah.
Because when Nate Johnson came in the game, I think Utah's pass catchers completely outshined Baylor's. Mikey Matthews and Money Parks, so much space, great hands, excellent pass, route running. But when Nate Johnson wasn't in the game, especially in the first half, Baylor's pass catchers outshined. And I think that perfectly goes into like the offensive line as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so offensive line, I think that this was a better performance than I expected from Baylor and probably a worse performance than I expected from Utah, which probably brings them pretty close to even, in my opinion, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Baylor had really elite pass protection. Utah was struggling to get pressure, which was something that I didn't know if Baylor would be able to keep the pocket that clean, so props to them for doing that. Utah also, though, for their O-line, they had a really good run push towards the end of this game, and they had quite a few plays where they did get a nice push on Baylor, especially in those last couple drives with Nate Johnson. So I'd say both played good in their own way.
To be kind of helping out Utah's offensive line, when you have a quarterback that's going to hold the ball for 8 seconds,
Yeah, how much time do you need?
you're gonna somebody's gonna break
A
through.
lot of those sacks were on Bryson Barnes, for sure.
I'd agree.
If he should have gotten the ball out a lot earlier, because there were open receivers.
Yes,
it's
there
not
were.
like everyone was just blanketed.
Yeah.
There were open receivers.
It's like, how long do you need? Like 7 seconds?
Yeah.
10 seconds? 12 seconds? Like, these plays were ridiculously long with Bryson holding onto the ball. How have you not let it fly after 12 seconds of route running?
I do think in the second half the run push was a lot better, which is why I'll probably go push overall between Utah and Baylor.
Yeah.
Through expectations, Baylor exceeded our expectations, and
Utah underachieved
So
expectations.
I think it's
Yeah.
got to be a push.
Defensive backs. Utah's defensive backs obviously made 2 crucial plays with the interceptions that really changed the game. Baylor's didn't allow many yards simply because Utah had no passing offense. So what do you guys think about this?
For me, I think it's an absolute landslide for Utah. The 2 biggest plays of this game were the 2 interceptions, and they were both really good plays on the ball. I think Utah's DBs did incredible this game, as well as locking up that receiver last possession of the game to win the game right there, because that was perfect defense, textbook right there. That gives really high marks from me.
I think the safeties were elite, but the corners were very lackluster.
I completely agree. I think there was some plays from Miles Battle, that last heave scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Miles Battle played terrible coverage there. But then Zamiah Vaughn, he did get beat, but he also had the pick, so I kind of evened that out.
Yeah, all of them got toasted at some point.
Exactly.
But Cole Bishop, Sione Vaki, the safeties for Utah, had a stellar game. Absolutely shined.
Okay, let's talk about the front 7. So I think that this was pretty close to a push because I think that Utah did better in run defense, but Baylor did better in pass defense, where they got more pressure on the quarterback with 3 sacks than Utah got 0 sacks, obviously.
Again, I think this has to do with the fact that the quarterback for Baylor, Sawyer Roberts, was getting rid of the ball very quickly. Utah's front 7 did not have any opportunity to pressure him because he didn't have the ball in his hands. Vice versa, I think Bryson Barnes held the ball for way
too long.
Yeah, and it hurt the offensive line, caused some sacks.
Yeah, for me, I would give the edge to Utah's front seven because they did force what should have been a fumble, so that gives, even though it wasn't called. And then Baylor, really the excellence from their front seven was more of a product of Bryson Barnes just holding onto the ball way too long. I think that they weren't very effective in stopping the run. They didn't cause any turnovers. I'm not sure. They didn't really play that well, and I think Utah's did a really good job, actually, of really stifling that Baylor offense, especially through the run.
Okay, let's move on.
I do want to say I think Lander Barton, his pressure on Baylor's quarterback did allow Cole Bishop to get that pick. It was just a bad throw, so that pressure did help the DBs as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the keys of the game that we laid out before the game. So for Utah, the keys of the game were establish the run, pressure the quarterback, and limit penalties. How do we think we did on those?
Again, I think second half, Utah hit some of these. First half, hit none of them. I mean, second half, Utah established the run. They pressured the quarterback better, but they still had quite a lot of penalties. So I think the tale of two halves is a key moment for me here. If this game was only played in the first half, Utah loses. If this game was played in the second half, Utah wins. So,
yeah, I feel very similarly to Ethan on this. I don't think Utah really hit on any of their keys in the first half of this game, and I think Baylor actually did hit on all three of those in the first half. But then coming into the second half, Utah still didn't really hit on limit penalties, didn't hit on pressure the QB. They did get that run established, though. And then Baylor started losing the line of scrimmage and the turnover battle, and then obviously start fast is the first half thing.
Yeah, so I agree. I do think Baylor hit all those things in the first half, and that's the reason they were up 10-3.
Yeah, exactly.
At halftime. But yeah, they weren't able to win the line of scrimmage. They obviously lost the turnover battle, 2 picks in the second half. And and then Utah started fast in the second half. So yeah, I think these keys were pretty accurate. Baylor kept it close because I think they hit more of their keys than Utah did.
I agree.
And so yeah, good game, I thought.
Who would you consider like your star player of the game? Never mind. I forgot we had the predictions. Let's go.
Let's go to the predictions.
My fault. My bad. This is a big part.
Yeah. So as far as predictions goes, I think offensively we were all really off because we expected to be able to push Baylor around a lot more than we did. Defensively, I think we were all kind of close. They didn't really get anything going offensively, and so I think our predictions reflect that.
Yeah. For me, my first thoughts: if Nate Johnson had played the whole game, I think it would have ended in the neighborhood of somewhere that 33-3 that I predicted. Maybe a bigger Utah win. I think that giving the Utah defense that break while Utah is on offense would really affect Baylor's ability to move the ball because our defense is going to be fresh. And that's what happened in the second half. It's not like our offense was incredible in the second half or anything, but once we started actually stringing together some drives, you could tell that Baylor offense, they just can't move the ball. They couldn't move the ball in the Utah defense. Yeah,
inexperienced quarterback, inexperienced offensive line, just not the athletes you need. It's not a recipe for scoring a lot of points on Utah.
I think we were all kind of hoping in the back of our minds that Cam Rising was going to come starting this game. So I was like, 42 points, we got this.
Because he was cleared, but he didn't play. I do think we would probably have scored around my prediction, 31, if we had Nate the whole game.
Yeah. But again, we kind of did miss out on those.
Yeah, so like Ethan said, let's talk about X factors.
Yeah.
For me, the X factor was Nate Johnson, 2 TD drives that sealed the game at the end of the game. I think he really played amazing. He looked like he had a great control of the offense. And he just looked like he provided so many options that Baylor just couldn't shut them all down.
Yeah, I completely agree. Night and day difference with Nate Johnson. When he was on the field, especially in the fourth quarter, he was the best player from either team the entire game. He played much better than Sawyer Robertson, much better than Bryson Barnes, who hopefully now is his backup officially.
Yeah.
But he's definitely my X factor.
For me, I think it's got to be Cole Bishop. He had 2 tackles for loss. Obviously, the big interception at the end of the game. And then I think he had 4 solo tackles as well. So the dude, he has, first 2 weeks, has shined. Versus Florida, he had an excellent game. Obviously, versus Baylor, he had a great game. I think he's showing out being one of the best safeties in the country. To me, the best safety in the country, Caleb Bullock, who I think Cole Bishop, All-American, waiting to happen right here.
Yeah, another X factor that I was thinking about was the crowd, and an X factor in a negative way for Baylor.
Yeah.
People that were there estimate that it was around 30% Utah fans, which honestly is, and I mean, it wasn't even close to sold out, which is a pretty embarrassing thing for a team like Baylor that prides itself on playing Power 5 football. You know,
Exactly.
I mean, a top 15 team coming into your home,
Number 12.
That's got to be sold out, man.
like I honestly think that if the crowd was completely sold out and mostly Baylor probably would have won with how Utah played.
I don't think so. This is one of, if not the worst Utah game I've ever seen us play. I think it was a complete mismatch. I don't think losing was ever in the cards for Utah, just with how much better they are than Baylor. This was the worst case scenario for Utah and a pretty good case for Baylor, honestly. So I don't know if it would have made much of a difference.
Yeah, I was just a little disappointed. Obviously, we're joining the Big 12 next year, and I was hoping to see maybe some better environments.
The passion,
exactly.
the passion that is all over.
Because
I compared to what, Arizona?
We've had to hear all year about how good the Big 12 fans are and how the Pac-12 has no fans, when it's like, this would have been like a low-tier Pac-12 environment.
I couldn't tell your stadium from Stanford.
Yeah,
just
seriously.
being real with you.
Yeah, so
it felt like Stanford.
I mean,
I was disappointed in that because when you play these marquee non-con Power 5 games, you're expecting an environment like the one Utah had against
Exactly.
Florida. And it just wasn't that.
when Utah was at the swamp for Florida.
Yeah,
It was crazy. It just, I don't know.
I was a little disappointed.
I mean, the passion that's all over social media for Big 12 fans, you'd hope it would show up on the field. And
But it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't show
At
up in the
least with
stadium.
our experience so far.
I'm just saying, Baylor, if you guys think you're going to be one of the competitors in the new Big 12, you guys better step it up big time.
Yeah,
because
Utah-
for the foreseeable future, Utah's the best team in the Big 12, and you guys will not be winning many games against Utah.
Win or lose, Utah's had a sellout streak that goes back over a decade.
Yes.
And like that's just like not the case here. Like I was really expecting something different and we didn't get that.
Same. That was maybe the only thing I was excited about for the Big 12, because the Big 12 is definitely a big drop in talent and competition. I was hoping that at least there was an uptick in fan engagement and just fan investment, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like as soon as your team loses a game, no one shows up to the stadium anymore.
Yeah, it's like I thought it was through thick and thin.
Yeah,
like
I don't
Utah.
know.
We had losing seasons and we
Yes.
still sold out the building every single game.
Oh, and again, you saw it in the game when Baylor was down. Fans were starting to leave.
They left the game before the last drive was even over. You guys were within one touchdown.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I understand there's 17 seconds left, but like you got to stick with your
I mean, you
guys.
literally almost scored a touchdown on that play.
Yeah.
Like, how can you leave early while the team is still on the field in contention?
Yeah. I definitely hope that they, fix that because obviously we're invested in it now because we're part of the Big 12. So we would rather have
I mean,
them have
until
a
we
good
get
home
that
field.
Big Ten or SEC invite, this is where we're going to be playing.
I love the confidence, Landon. I love it.
I mean, Baylor fans, Big 12 fans, they don't like to hear the truth that Kyle Whittingham is speaking. Alignment is far
It's
from
not
over.
done. It's going to
far
be
from over.
It's far from over.
The Big 12 is next on the chopping block. Them or the ACC.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you liked our reactions. Pretty passionate one today, I would say. Please comment what you thought. If you're a Baylor fan, sorry about the game. Sorry about our slander against you. But we won the game. What can we say? And you guys will have a chance next year at our house.
The final message I would say is just get used to losing to Utah. I don't know if you guys will beat us ever while we're in the Big 12. We might go in there, win 3 to 5 Big 12 championships, and then leave. So, hey, get up for that next game because you might not have that many more chances to beat us. And we're sure as hell not losing at home. So start prepping for that next road game.
Yeah, we'll see you next year at our place. Please like, comment, and subscribe what you think. We love to do this analysis. We love to do these reactions. We love Utah football. So we'll see you guys later.
Watch us out for Spotify if you like the podcast form better. We're on Spotify now, so watch it out. Go Utes.
Thank you.